Good morning. This is Reverend Geraldine Amaral Hodson from the Arlington Metaphysical Chapel. Thank you for joining us today. The reading today comes from the 13th century poet and Sufi mystic Rumi, and it is entitled The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. So the dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whomever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Today's reading, The Guest House by poet and Sufi mystic Rumi. Before we dive into the serious ideas for today, I thought we would begin with a little humor. I recently saw a list of some church bulletin bloopers. Of course, we never make any mistakes in our bulletins here at AMC. But here are some church bulletin mistakes and bloopers from other organizations. Here's the first one. The Outreach Committee has enlisted 25 visitors to make calls on people who are not afflicted with any other church. Number 2. The Low Self-Esteem Support Group will meet Thursday at 7 to 8:30 p.m. Please use the back door of the church. Number 3. At the evening service tonight, the sermon topic will be, What is Hell? Come early and listen to our choir practice. And the last one. Ladies, don't forget the rummage sale. It's a chance to get rid of those things not worth keeping around the house. Don't forget your husbands. Anyway, we have to have a little fun, right? Now, here in our metaphysical church, we have some unique philosophies about life and why we are here and how to best navigate our spiritual journey. And each one of us probably has our own personal philosophy as well. Some of these are spiritual beliefs, some are political, some are existential, and so on. But today I want to talk to you about a particular and even somewhat controversial idea that can bring you inner peace and happiness and less struggle and less suffering in your life. Now, there are some clues to this somewhat unusual philosophy in today's inspirational reading. The poet Rumi informs us that we humans are a kind of, quote, guest house, and our guests are a joy, a depression, a meanness, and some momentary awareness. He advises us to, quote, welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows. Welcome and entertain them all. This concept of welcoming all aspects of life is not unique to Rumi. For example, Jesus offers some similar advice in Matthew 5 when he says, Whoever strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other one to him as well. Whoever forces you to go 1 mile, go 2 miles with him. Odd advice, isn't it? Both these teachers are inviting us to embrace that which we would rather avoid or run away from, to go toward the very thing that repels us. Another example of this advice comes from the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. He called it amor fati. Amor fati is the Latin phrase that means the love of one's fate. Nietzsche describes this concept as the ability not to just bear our fate, but to love our fate. Nietzsche says this, quote, My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, a place in which one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, to not merely bear what is necessary, but to love it. It's the end of the quote. So these are examples of a state of consciousness that we can adopt to bring way less suffering into our lives. It's really an awakened state of consciousness, in which we are no longer conditioned to act out of old patterns. It is a state of being in which we no longer react to the present events through the lens of the past. We begin to interrupt self-defeating and self-sabotaging patterns. And we all have those. So the essence of this state of consciousness is this: learn to witness and even befriend your experience. In fact, become a master at accepting and befriending what is. So here's a more modern example of this concept. You may be familiar with a song by Rascal Flatts called "Bless the Broken Road." Don't worry, I won't be singing it. It is a love song to another person, but I like to think of it also as a song to the divine. So here it goes. I set out on a narrow way many years ago, hoping I would find true love along the broken road. But I got lost a time or two, wiped my brow and kept pushing through. Every long-lost dream led me to where you are. Others who broke my heart, they were like northern stars, pointing me on my way. This much I know is true. God bless the broken road that led me straight to you. Lovely song, just lovely. Once again, we are invited to do the exact opposite of what our instincts and our base survival needs might dictate. Bless the broken road. So this is how it works. The suffering and pain we feel in any given moment, in most circumstances in our lives, depends upon the level of resistance to the situation and to the present moment. So much of our suffering in our day-to-day resistance does not actually come from the situation, but rather our reaction to it. It comes from how we perceive it and how we receive it. Perceive it and receive it. The more we resist something, the more we push something away, the more it controls us. Now, we often think that a certain situation or a certain person is creating our suffering. But ultimately, that is not so. It is our resistance that is amplifying the suffering. So all the examples I have mentioned thus far remind us that we can reduce our suffering by developing ways to simply be present with our challenges, to welcome the experiences of our lives, to love whatever is arising in this moment, whatever is arising in this moment. Rather than automatically reacting and resisting, we are being instructed to be with what is. Bless the broken road. So how do we do this? First, we learn to become comfortable with the way things are, the way it is. We do this by learning to observe life events without ascribing meaning to them, without labeling and without reaction. So this extreme advice offered by Jesus, Rumi, Nietzsche, and yes, even Rascal Flatts, is an exaggeration of learning to be with what is, by going beyond what is asked of us and actually welcoming uncomfortable or painful experiences. Instead of the "I must get rid of this" way of being, we see models in these examples for practicing acceptance. Bless the broken road. Because here's what happens when you learn to observe and truly accept when you move toward the very thing you wish to get rid of. Something shifts. You begin to feel more and more space around the situation, and then the situation itself begins to shift. It may even start to shrink or disappear. You know, we all have one problem or another. Is there any one of you listening who doesn't have any problems? I think not. Maybe you've had the experience of struggling with a problem and then at some point consciously choosing to stop engaging in the struggle, giving up the resistance to the situation, surrendering to the issue. And in that instant, the situation is transformed. I know this has been true for me in my past. It's how I met my husband. So I'll spare you all the dramatic details. But let's just say I had a long history of rocky relationships. And at some point, I really did decide that I would make the most of being single and give up the idea of finding my soulmate. Soon after I truly and fully committed to that decision, once I consciously welcomed my single life, I met the man who would become my husband and my life partner. As we give up our resistance and our struggle, when we surrender to what is happening in the present moment, there is a shift. The situation does not change. What changes is our perspective on the situation. By accepting what is just as it is, we liberate ourselves from the very suffering we seek to avoid. Bless the broken road. Now, this does not mean that whenever you move into this witness state, your desires will automatically be fulfilled. But it does offer you peace and may even allow for a better result to unfold. Nor does it mean that we should stop trying to take appropriate actions to eliminate difficulties in our life. What I am suggesting is that the first step in making a change is to simply watch the experience without judgment and evaluation. Let it be just as it is. See what happens. Of course, our lives are filled with situations, people, events that we don't want. As I've said, these unwanted situations come up in our lives for many reasons, but their true value is to help us practice this witness consciousness, observing and accepting without ascribing meaning. Of course, we all know that the difficult people in our lives, those who annoy us the most, the ones who push our buttons, these are the most troubling in our lives. These are our teachers. You know, those challenging people are the ones we need to spend time with. They show us the unloved pieces within ourselves. They are the mirrors of our unloved and unacknowledged selves. Take them out to lunch. Bless the broken road. In divine metaphysics, the law that most relates to the readings today is the law of non-resistance, or the law of detachment. This universal law tells us that when we resist a condition, a person, or a thing that we don't like or want, we are actually adding power to it. The more we push something away, the more it controls us. For example, in Jungian psychology, we learn to embrace the shadow, to love all the parts of ourselves, rather than try to hide our weakness, our shame, and our foibles. In fact, Jung encouraged us to observe the ways we resist where we are in life. You know, we all do it, complaining, criticizing, fault-finding, especially of ourselves, wishing we were somewhere else, rehashing the past, imagining that we will be happy when we achieve this thing or that thing. These patterns ensure that those very things we want to get rid of have even greater power over us. We can end this suffering today, right now, by simply allowing. That's the law of non-resistance. So this may be a new strategy for some of us, allowing a difficult situation to be as it is. You can start small if you want. For example, the next time you go to Starbucks and you order a grande non-fat, no-foam, extra hot soy latte with a double shot and 2 pumps of hazelnut foam on the side, and they don't get it just right, try being open to it. Choose it. See what happens. Instead of being annoyed with the barrister, smile at him or her and send them thoughts of love. See what happens in your life as you extend acceptance to others. We never know what miracles will come from embracing our challenges and problems. You know, we never know. I don't know if any of you listening watched the TV show called America's Got Talent. It's a kind of copycat of American Idol. I will never forget a particular contestant from a few years ago. She was a 26-year-old woman named Kechi Akuichi. When she was 16, she was in an airplane crash in which she was only one of 2 survivors. She survived, but she was severely burned over 65% of her body, leaving her face, arms, and legs extremely disfigured. Despite over 100 surgeries, her external appearance was very difficult to look at. But she had a very gorgeous, rich voice, and she was a finalist in the show, standing literally before millions of viewers, courageously singing and performing despite her severe disfigurement. She did not allow her very difficult fate to stop her. She continued to pursue and followed her dreams of helping others through her music and her courageous example. Bless the broken road. So, dear friends who are listening, I will end by summarizing the secret to a happier, more peaceful life. How do you get what you want from life? Want what you have in this moment. How do you become who you want to be? Want to be who you are right now. How do you get everything you've ever wanted? Want everything you have in this moment. God bless your broken road.